Oh boy.
Some of you guys out there sweating? Even though theoretically I could sue a lot more creators.
Yep. So now he's trying to explain why you wouldn't sue others.
And rake in millions of dollars. But the purpose of this is not financial gain. People like XQC and Asmongold may have watched the entire thing, but I would never sue them just for doing that. I don't want to chill the reaction community into fear. Actually,
Whoa, that's bad faith too. Just be honest, Ethan. I mean, this is just, I get it. But you can't on the one hand say XQC is not malicious, XQC watches the whole video, and act like you're here protecting the reaction community by protecting reactions such as those by XQC, who doesn't give a about infringement, right? So this is how Ethan would have you portray it, right?
Ethan is not suing to protect or to like protect copyright for the entire community or whatever. I think Ethan is talking with a high degree of specificity about his particular lawsuit and who he's suing. So I don't think it's right to read this as a defense for all of XQC's reacting, because I don't think that Ethan was on the other side of that argument. I'm pretty sure against XQC. I think Ethan is just speaking with specificity to his lawsuits. I don't know why Pisco keeps broadening this out to everybody.
XQC is not malicious about infringing. Don't buy it at all. No one can argue with me that that is. Now, what he might ultimately say is he doesn't want to steal money or revenue from the people who he's, infringing on. But that's not the only kind of malice, is when you like purposely want something. Also being, uncaring about whether you do or not, that's also a kind of malice. So yeah, I don't believe that at all. I think that is, if you have any background knowledge on XQC, it doesn't even pass the smell test to distinguish the kind of reaction that he does, principally, from these other people. That is like laughable. I'm not being purposely obtuse. I gave Ethan his credit at the start. This is what I'm being fair and balanced in all things, as all things should be. I started by saying that I don't think he's poisoning the well by laying out this principled position of fair use. I think that he's demonstrated that over the course of his career. And so I'm giving him, and I even thanked him for the case law that we have. I think that's good case law, actually. That's an example of where he was raising money for legal, the FUPA fund or whatever, where we actually got useful case law at the end of it. It was a motion for summary judgment. I think I remember, yeah, it was a motion for summary judgment. And it's good case law, it's good precedent. It's an example of like one of the successful raising money for legal fund defense things, right? So I gave him his props at the start. But the notion that XQC is not a malicious infringer is so laughable and beyond the pale. Basically, what I think he's gonna try to argue, and what I'm starting to hear is like, there's a principled reason beyond my personal disagreements with these people that I would go after them as opposed to anyone else. And that is going to be very hard for me to stomach. It's going to be hard for me to have a principle distinction there. Now, is it infringement? We'll take a look and see what the arguments are. But let's just be, it feels a little dishonest. This is probably going to be because you disagree with them and you don't like them. And it has to do with your personal disagreement and the Hassan thing and the Israel-Palestine stuff. The notion that this is a principled position to go after malicious infringers as opposed to like non-malicious infringers. And XQC, even though he's not carrying, isn't malicious. To me, that doesn't even pass the smell test.
Now, ironically,
I don't know what, I mean, has XQC ever, maybe he has, I've missed it, or was it in the first, do I want to rewatch that first 9 minutes? Has XQC ever said anything like, let's take the revenue from these guys to make sure they don't make any money on this? Like, has he ever said that ever? I don't understand that statement at all that Pisco just made, but okay.
After this debate and in the wake of this large conversation, the problem seems to have only gotten worse. You have people like Hassan Piker paving the way of fair use with what's known as chair reacts. When Hassan gets
this
up
is
to go to
insane.
the bathroom, or to eat, or to talk to his mom, or to do whatever, disappears for an extended period of time and leaves the video playing for his chair. Mr. Chair, they call it.
That's crazy.
The effort warned people to leave the area around the main airport in Sana'a.
That's wild. Like, he for sure is infringing on all this shit. Not necessarily all of it. There are some reactions that he does that I don't think is infringing, but when he just lets a majority of the video play, like...
Pisco is considering XQC malicious because he said he doesn't care about the law. Yeah, he can roll with that definition, which that is probably what he's doing, but that's clearly not what Ethan, I think, is referring to here, right?
That's crazy. They literally say watch it live. No, I understand that there could be some additional malice, but like XQC is very malicious in infringing. That's what I don't buy. Like XQC literally said, I don't care if I'm breaking the law or not. That to me.
Yeah, but that's not what Ethan is talking about not caring if you're breaking the law. I think what Ethan is talking about is literally like, I'm going to deprive this creator of revenue. I don't know why I'm qualifying this what I think. That's very clearly and very obviously what Ethan means. I think it should be very easy and obvious to understand that.
Me is like, there's a reckless disregard for all those other effects that Denims and company are trying to achieve, right?
Like, that's not the definition that Ethan is rolling with. But.
Thanks, Tomato. Is that's what you mean by malicious? That is like malicious towards other creators.
Yeah.
But it's just a different kind of malice, right? So the argument on
but that's the kind of malice that he's talking about, right?
behalf of people like XQC is, well, this brings more attention to the video anyway. So then you have to make this argument like, but XQC literally says he doesn't care about the law, but he wants to benefit these people. He wants to help them out. And so if that's his actual belief that he's helping these people, but Hassan has said similar things before. So how do you distinguish them? I think that it's just like...
We're not talking about Hassan and we're not talking about XQC. How do we distinguish them from people like the 3 named parties in the lawsuits? The distinguishing thing is them saying, we want to take away money from Ethan Klein. That's the distinguishing thing, right? What do you mean?
He doesn't care whether it helps him or not. And let's be honest, does he really care? He doesn't care if it helps him or not, if it hurts them. Does XQC give a shit if the video he's watching hurts the person who made it or who owns the copyright? No, he doesn't really care. Let's be honest here.
I think people would feel a little bit differently about it, actually. I disagree with that. I think it is really hard to see the harm from copyright infringement. That's why people don't feel bad when they like pirate music and shit. So it's infinite, right? Or I wasn't going to watch it anyway. I was going to buy it anyway. Oh, I ad block regardless. Oh, I would have like. I actually think it is quite hard.
And it was in this setting that I formulated an idea. What if I could make a long-form, irresistible...
Like if we were to do like a really hyperbolic example, let's say that like a new content creator were to release a video. And let's say that Asmongold, XQC, Hassan, Destiny, everybody, we all react to it like the minute it comes out, and we all upload reacts to it, and we all get like views ranging from 100,000 to 10 million views on the video, and the original video got like 1,000 views. I think that not only would all the communities be like outraged about it, I think even the content creators themselves would be like, ooh, that kind of feels kind of shitty. We gotta fuck that dude over pretty hard, right?
Piece of content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist, they couldn't avoid the temptation of watching it the second it was published.
I don't have an issue with them.
Oh, wait, so he planned this? He planned to make videos so good that it would be infringed? Okay. Weird flex, but cool. I'm following.
These people to steal my video is that I knew they would.
Okay.
Watch the entire video, add little to no commentary, react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion. The trap was set, and it worked even better than I imagined.
So he's saying he set a trap. He designed a video so amazing that it would promote infringement. So he very much set a trap. Okay. I don't think that matters at all for the infringement question, but it may play into my like overall take. But I don't really think it matters for infringement, I'm pretty sure like a lot of organizations make content knowing it's going to be delectable, knowing now whether it's a quote unquote trap for the purpose of filing a lawsuit. I don't know, but I don't know why that would matter.
Captured pretty much every large streamer reacting to it in its entirety immediately after it was published. Now the thing is, there were a few people that went above and beyond to commit copyright infringement. For example, Denim sits here.
Yeah, the thing is, and here's something you all have to learn, right? Malice and intent is not an element of copyright infringement.
Oh, this wasn't, there's no live chat for this?
Let me blow your mind. Copyright infringement is strict liability. There's no intent requirement. So to the extent that individuals are making these kinds of statements that imply some level of malice, the only distinction that I could say, maybe in terms of damages, maybe there's some difference there. Maybe in terms of how easy it will to be to prove some of the elements, other elements, right? How obvious, maybe some of the fair use factors get extra weight.
Yeah, this is strictly true. Copyright infringement is a strict liability crime, or I don't know if it would be considered a crime, civil, tort, or tort, I guess you would say. However, I think when you're doing the 4-factor assessment, I think that you are absolutely taking into account intention of how the work is being used, what it is you're doing. Like I think all of that stuff starts to weigh in very, very, very heavily, which is going to matter a lot when you're calculating civil liability or damages and everything else,
In terms of the stated intent, but it's not strictly speaking an element. And so the infringement doesn't turn on whether or not they want to take money from you. It doesn't turn on whether or not they know or think that what they're doing is fair use. It's strict liability. So a bit disingenuous in the sense that like they went above and beyond because of things they said to do copyright infringement. That said, I'm also fairly certain that you
have to be very careful not to conflate fair use with copyright infringement. I think, right, because the fair use would be the affirmative defense that you would wield when accused of copyright infringement. If you're wheeling out the fair use defense, you've basically said what I've done has met all of the elements of copyright infringement, but I don't think I'm actually copyright infringing because here's my reason for why I, appropriated whatever copyrighted works. In which case, I think things like intent, again, when you go to weigh the 4 factors, I guess it depends on how you measure or how you do intent. Like if you make something for educational purposes versus making something for, commercial YouTube purposes, like would you consider that intent? I feel like we're kind of playing word games, but however you define intent, it's going to be evaluated when you're using fair use as a defense here, right?
We'll be describing blatant copyright infringement if the intro is anything to give us an indication.
That went above and beyond to commit copyright infringement. For example, Denim sits here silently with nearly 50,000 live viewers. That's 30 times her regular viewership. She's working directly with the Snark subreddit moderators to siphon views, and their intentions couldn't be clearer. Here's an excerpt from a sticky post from the Snark subreddit. Hey everyone, we've seen a lot of comments about wanting to watch the nuke without showing support for H3. Here's a list of creators who've supported our sub, either by engaging with us directly or citing our post in their critique.
Denim's reaction was transformative. Regardless of her stated intentions, it was almost 4 hours long. Time alone doesn't necessarily say whether or not it was transformative, although it could be. Wait, is there a link to Denim's reaction to this? Like, is that video still up or did she delete it? Like, I'm curious, when they say that it was 4 hours long, was this like an hour padded at the beginning and the end? Or was this actually like it started and then it took 4 hours to get through the hour and a half video? Fuck, nobody has a link. Well, Destiny. Oh, re-upload.
Oh,
7,
it's happening.
Launch.
That's the man.
Yes.
And most disturbingly, a complete white
defender
is calling me racist.
Oh,
You make
okay. Cool, just like
Christian
pausing at the start of the
Targeting the
things and bad things.
no zero updates on their health, whereabouts,
Here's while we're having this back and
And now,
There's a gen-
Hassan is
There's a
clearly trying to
genocide
talk
going
about
on.
is, I don't know what I don't know. And years ago.
Almost and say it's Israeli is the most insane thing to me.
Dude, the fact that they
Is there to you? We realize no account the Jews as inbred.
Number one. It's like, I know, like,
Okay. What? How long was the content nuke? Was it an hour and a half? Hour and 42. Okay.
Critique of H3. Here they're offering these streamers as market substitutes for my work. This is the cardinal sin of copyright infringement.
Yeah, but the copyright infringement for fair use, the market substitute situation, it doesn't turn on whether you want it to be a market substitute. Now, that's probably really good evidence, and you probably lead in your brief, with that evidence. I'm not a fucking idiot, all right? So you definitely lead with that, because it's really cool, but it's just not, the question is whether it is a market substitute, right? That's the real question. Not
For sure. But all of these things are going to go towards the plaintiff's arguments for they knew it was, right?
whether or not you intend it to be a market substitute. Although I will concede, that's probably something that you lead the brief with, because it's so delicious. And so I'm not telling you this isn't something that you would highlight in the brief, for sure.
The Snark subreddit has been a frequent and persistent infringer. That's how I knew when this video came out, the Snarkers were going to encourage.
Okay, now, how is the Snark subreddit doing copyright infringement? By copying links. Maybe they're aiding and abetting or something, I don't know. But just to be particular here, have they copied any of the copyrighted content? So I'm being very pedantic.
Urge, promote, and push streamers to commit copyright infringement. I should thank the Snarkers, actually. Because of their predictability, they acted like double agents for us, incriminating their favorite streamers and serving them up on a golden platter. So, thank you.
Factually, it's very dramatic, though, so that's pretty funny.
It's one thing for a subreddit to admit it's in.
Just go, when bars display UFC premieres, that would fall under the concept of market substitutes in a way. So, the copyright, we went over about the elements of what grants you copyright infringement. What you need to have a work, right? You need to have authorship. It needs to be a creative work, minimally creative, very, 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 very low bar, minimally creative. It needs to be fixed in a tangible medium of expression, and at the point of fixation, the copyright protection attaches. At the point of fixation.
Apparently, oh god, if I read too many Aaron comments, I'm gonna lose my mind. Apparently, these streamers are linked directly to the Snark subreddit based on this post alone, but don't say that Ethan was working alongside the ADL. Did Ethan ever have any direct communication with the ADL, or what was the extent of that? My understanding is that these streamers all read directly from the Snark shit and have community members that are shared and everything. Is that the comparison that we're making here? What? Okay.
The separate question is, what are the rights under copyright? And if you go to the statute, the copyright statute, they list out all of the different rights. And there's a right to make copies, there's a right to make derivative works, there's a right to perform, a right to display. And so what these bars do is they buy licenses to perform the work. That's what the bars do. So all of the stuff at the approved bars. The approved bars buy licenses to show different shit. And there's a difference also, if you buy a copy of a work, there's some kind of limited right to show your copy to some group of your friends. It's or some group. It can't be the general public. It can't be open access. And so there's all these weird rules for publicly performing or displaying the work, because you're that's one of the rights where you're not making a copy. You're just performing or displaying. But now you could also be making a copy. And as in point of fact, the technology here would matter. Sometimes in performing the work, you're making a copy at the same time. When I am
Wow, there's David's games. David V. Verse Games. The Line of Zion. Aren't you supposed to even buy licenses for playing music in restaurants? Yes. Although I think that has to do with commercial purposes and audience size, but you wouldn't need to buy a license to play music for a house party.
reacting to this video, if this were infringement, it's fair use in my opinion. In this video, right, I'm making a copy if I were infringing, because I'm also recording this as a VOD on my local hard drive, but also on the Twitch servers. So different rights can be at issue. The market substitute analysis has to do with fair use. That's where that analysis comes into play, not at the point of infringement. The first question is there even copyright protection?
True.
Right? Is this a work of authorship? Is there that minimal creativity? Is there fixation? Those kinds of questions.
Congratulations for getting into med school, David. You can be our resident anti-vaxxer soon. Okay.
Next question is there infringement? There's a split in some of the circuit split on some of the case law in terms of substantial copying, in fact, copying, legal copying, right? So there's a question of infringement. And then next, there's the question of fair use. So they're different questions. The market substitution analysis comes to the point of fair use. I hope that clears some things up. I should have clarified initially. This is something that the bar did not pay for the rights, right? If the bar did not pay for the rights, then they're violating the copyright of UFC because they're having a public performance, and that's a right protected and given to the copyright holder. One of the exclusive rights, and we'll go to them so you guys can see what I'm talking about. You have the reproduction of copies or phonorecords, derivative works, distribution rights, in the case of literary, musical, dramatic, and choreographic works, and motion pictures and other audiovisual works, to perform the copyrighted work publicly. So when you perform it, right, every time you play the movie, you're performing it to yourself. So it's the right to perform it publicly. In the case of these other kinds of works, the display, right? So that could be considered the performance and display are kind of go hand in hand. And then you have this specific to audio sound recordings, right? So one of the rights protected here is the right of performance. And so for bars that want to perform the UFC fights, they need to get a license, because those bars are performing the works publicly.
Engaging in copyright infringement. But how do you get the streamers themselves to admit that they're stealing content?
So this whole thing about how do we get them to admit it? It's disingenuous. You don't need them to admit it. It doesn't matter if they admit it. Maybe it matters for how compelling your brief is, I guess. But the notion that it changes the underlying legality of it, I find to be disingenuous. It's a strict liability offense, strict liability cause of action.
Guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video,
God.
follow, subscribe, throw a prime.
Okay, but you do lead with that in the brief. Holy dumb.
If you like the content, if you enjoyed your time here.
It turns out they just do it for you. You couldn't cook up a more incriminating statement if you tried. Denham's the queen of self-owning. You prevail again. There's
That's a big cell phone.
one thing about copyright you should know is that you got to register it before you publish to be eligible for statutory damages.
Right, so that's correct. So Ethan Klein appears to know something about copyright. So the copyright protection.
How compelling your argument is kind of fucking matters. Not really in this case. Pisco's right. You lead with this in your complaint because it looks good and it kind of roasts the opposition. But like you could theoretically say, just so you guys know, oh, like the big meme, no copyright infringement intended. That doesn't matter whatsoever. And you could also lead with I'm about to copyright infringe the fuck out of this piece of shit, and then do the most like transformative work ever, and it's not copyright infringement or not. Technically, it has basically no bearing on whether, but like you would include it because a judge is going to read this, and arguments are going to go back and forth, and it speaks a little bit like it's like persuasive-ish, but strictly speaking, it's not really. It has nothing to do with meeting the threshold of copyright infringement or not.
Exists at the time of fixation. So you don't need to register your works to get copyright protection. But you do need to register it if you want specifically statutory damages. They want to encourage you to register your work. There used to be, the copyright system used to be, you had to register all works that you wanted to have copyright protection. But then, so America was much less lenient than these other countries. And then to ascend to a bunch of like international treaties on copyright, America changed their laws to say, okay, now it appears at the time of fixation.
Why is Pisco treating a YouTube video like it is the court case? They're clearly for different audiences. I don't know. He's showing his lawyer analysis, I guess. I don't know.
But you still need to register in order to get statutory damages. If he's telling the truth, I'm assuming he registered the video, which would not be common practice for most creators to register in the Copyright Office.
Nope.
But that's kind of funny.
And attorney's fees, which is the main biting force of a copyright infringement lawsuit. Well, I'm happy to tell you guys now. I, Ethan Klein, have registered a Sean Piker content new with the United States.
But like also, to be clear, also for like strict liability, even when we talk about criminal stuff, like, well, I should be careful because for civil stuff, whether or not somebody pursues it really just comes down to whether or not a plaintiff wants to file charges. But like for strict liability crimes, that's probably almost, I'm going to say almost certainly going to influence whether or not a district attorney wants to go after somebody, right? Like if there is some guy who is, 25 and he banged a 17-year-old who showed him a fake ID and somehow the cops arrest somebody or whatever, and then they found out like, oh, this girl showed you a fake ID and you had sex with him. Like statutory, I believe, is a strict liability crime. There is no excuse. Even if they showed you a fake ID, it doesn't matter. But my guess is going to be that, like, if a prosecutor is looking at this, they're going to be like, this is dumb. Like, either they'll plea him out or they won't even charge. Because, like, the fuck is the point? It's, like, generally speaking, now you're relying on the prosecutor not wanting to fuck you over or whatever. But, like, being malicious or states of mind or whatever would influence criminal stuff. But on civil stuff, it's up to whether or not you want to bring the lawsuit out. Now, the state of mind stuff possibly, while it won't help you in meeting the element for the crime or the element for the tort, and it won't matter for necessarily maybe a conviction unless a jury is persuaded. It might matter for awards or damages. If you can show the other person was acting like with huge malicious intent, then a jury maybe. I'm not aware of there being certain torts that you don't get secondary damages awarded for. My understanding is that can basically be awarded for anything. So
It's Library of Congress.
Oh boy.
Some of you guys out there sweating? Even though theoretically I could sue a lot more creators.
Yep. So now he's trying to explain why he wouldn't sue others.
And rake in millions of dollars. But the purpose of this is not financial gain. People
Okay.
like XQC and Asmongold may have watched the entire thing, but I would never sue them just for doing that. I don't want to chill the reaction community into fear. Actually,
Whoa. That's bad faith too. Just be honest, Ethan. I mean, this is just bullshit. I get it. But you can't on the one hand say XQC is not malicious, XQC watches the whole fucking video, and act like you're here protecting the reaction community by protecting reactions such as those by XQC, who doesn't give a fuck about infringement, right? So this is how Ethan would have you portray it, right? We're going to protect.
Ethan is not suing to protect or to like protect copyright for the entire community or whatever. I think Ethan is talking with a high degree of specificity about his particular lawsuit and who he's suing. So I don't think it's right to read this as a defense for all of XQC's reacting, because I don't think that Ethan was on the other side of that argument, I'm pretty sure, against XQC. I think Ethan is just speaking with specificity to his lawsuits. I don't know why Pisco keeps broadening this out to everybody.
XQC, now I don't know as much about Asmongold, I'll fucking watch that guy, but XQC's reaction content, that needs to be protected. I wouldn't want to chill XQC, really? You wouldn't want to chill XQC? XQC, who you started the video by saying...
With regards to Ethan's particular copyright infringement lawsuits, with regards to Ethan's stuff.
He doesn't give a fuck about the copyright law? He doesn't care if he's breaking the law? Why wouldn't you want to chill that kind of thing? So this is what I take to be the bad faith. It's bad faith to suggest that the reason that you're pursuing these creators and not other creators is because of some substantial difference in the fair use factor, some substantial difference, and you're really doing this for the community and protecting some kind of reactions, the good reactions from the bad reactions.
I think Pisco has missed the point so far here. But I think he got set in this direction like 5 or 10 minutes ago. Copyright claims and contract suits in general do not have punitive damages and are typically limited to actual damages only. I'm aware of that for contract stuff. I thought tort stuff generally did have secondary damages that could come in. Is that not the case? Or does copyright stuff generally fall under, would it not be considered a tort? Is it contract? I'm not sure. Maybe they don't typically have secondary damages then.
That is not what's going on here, because XQC does not have good reactions. That is not at all what's going on here. Just be honest. You're going after these people because you don't like them. And that's your right as copyright holder. You know,
this is so wrong. Pisco's super conflating. There's like, if XQC would have reacted in the same way to his video as the others did, I'm pretty sure Ethan would have no problem going after XQC, but he didn't. Ethan is very clearly and very obviously talking with specificity to his, I don't know how many times I can say this. But
you're a copyright holder. You do what you want to do, but just be honest. Just be honest. You don't like these people. You laid a trap for them, and that's what's going on. And I'll go even a step further. What Denham's just said there is a fucking self-own, and she's not upholding any kind of standard of reaction from what I can tell and what's going to be there that anyone should like, or that should be protected, or that we shouldn't say don't fuck around and find out. If you do that kind of reaction content, you should fuck around and find out. So I'm being fair and balanced. 100%.
Copyright isn't a contract, but it is all governed by federal statute, which limits damages to actual damages. Is that true? I don't think that's necessarily the case, right? Like, for instance, my wonderful court case is based on that first thing is a federal statute, but you can still also go for secondary damages there, right? That was my understanding. Or defamation or slander. Like, these are, I guess they don't have to be on federal, like the Alex Jones things. Let's see. Secondary damages, punitive, Westlaw. Come on, brah. Cornell, that's the other legal thing, right? Punitive damages are awarded in addition to actual damages in certain circumstances. Punitive damages are considered punishment and are typically awarded at the court's discretion when the defendant's behavior is found to be especially harmful. Punitive damages are not awarded in the context of are normally not awarded in the context of a breach of contract claim. So not contract. Tort is not contract. I'm pretty sure tort encompasses everything that's not a contract, right? For civil cause of action, I think. Punitive damages in tort law. In the case of tort liability, courts may choose to apply punitive damages. However, they will typically only do so if the plaintiff can prove that the defendant engaged in an intentional tort and or engaged in wanton or willful misconduct. An intentional tort is a type of tort that can only result from an intentional act of the defendant. Depending on the exact tort alleged, either general or specific intent will need to be proven. Common intentional torts are battery, assault, false imprisonment, trespass to land, trespass to chattels, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. For instance, in the case of Garrett versus the court. Okay, so that would mean that intentional tort is not strict liability tort, right? Because intent isn't required for a strict liability thing, neither general nor specific intent, right? Maybe, right? Remedies for infringement, damages, and profits. Except as long as... Oh, this is about statutory damages that you can get if you've registered, I think, for a copyright or whatever. Control F, punitive. Control F, secondary. It's not in here, but the Supreme Court found that awarding punitive damage requires evidence that the defendant proceeded intentionally with an unlawful action after knowing that the act was likely to cause the injury. With regard to principal-agent relationship, courts are reluctant to award punitive damages on the principal for the reckless actions of the agent. One exception to this preference is when the principal encourages or causes the agent's recklessness. Okay, some contracts will liquidate. Okay. Applying punitive. Courts apply punitive damages in about 5% of verdicts. Recently, courts plan to evaluate the appropriateness of assigning punitive damages. The amount of compensatory damages assigned. Well, that didn't really help much.
But the XQC style reaction is also of that type. Now, you might add in the gloss where here, there's that additional kind of like... Oh.
Hold on. What is this?
Israel's government has also spread chaos, terror, and suffering throughout the region. Iran's government has also spread chaos, terror, and suffering throughout the region.
Nice. Based. Good job.
Oh, I don't like you, Ethan Klein. I don't want you to make money. But to me, that is a distinction without a difference in terms of the fundamental fair use analysis. That doesn't really matter. On both sides of the ledger, what's really driving this is personal dislike and the other issues, not the nature of what's happening here. So this distinction, and I could already tell from how he started it, between XQC and these other people, doesn't pass the fucking smell test.
He's just so wrong. I don't know why or what he missed here, what happened, or maybe he was reading chat. I read chat sometimes, but this is just completely off.
And it certainly isn't relevant for purposes of copyright infringement. That said, I think it's pretty it's pretty clear that there's an infringing malicious intent on behalf of Denham's there. So that to me is pretty clear. And it's pretty funny that he registered for copyright protection, or sorry, for statutory damages.
the entire thing, but I would never sue them just for doing that. I don't want to chill the reaction community into fear. Actually,
That's so fucking dumb. I don't want to chill XQC, the reaction community. Weren't you like hypercritical of XQC's reaction takes? Weren't you like saying he shouldn't do that? That was wrong to do?
Yes, because Ethan doesn't like how XQC reacts to things. But Ethan wasn't targeting XQC in this lawsuit because XQC didn't react in this way to his thing particularly.
That just is so fucking laughable to me.
It would
Just
be
don't lie to our
laughable.
face, okay? I told you.
It would be laughable, but that's not at all what he's saying.
I know I thanked Ethan at the start of this video for the precedent, and I think he has been a principled fair use guy before, but don't fucking lie. Don't fucking lie to my face. You are trying to chill certain types of reactions from certain types of people. What you're trying to chill or go after are the people you don't like. But if someone had done
That's a wildly dumb statement, but okay.
this kind of like, yeah, you know, like,
If that was true, then why didn't Ethan name Hassan in one of these lawsuits? Because Hassan reacted to at least part of it, right? What was the difference between Hassan and the three named plaintiffs? I'm sure there were other people that reacted in part at least to it, or maybe in whole that he doesn't like as well. No?
both sides, Andy, you guys are fucking so lame.
Hope that we can all unite against this type of egregious behavior that not only makes us all look bad, but could destroy the commentary community as...
Yeah, that's XQC. That's XQC. So there is a massive hypocrisy here. If you're like,
What is that? This is so crazy. Wait.
both sides, Andy, you guys are fucking so lame.
Hope that we can all unite against this type of egregious behavior that not only makes us all look bad, but could destroy the commentary community as...
Yeah, that's XQC. That's XQC.
Ethan has no standing to sue XQC. I don't understand what he's saying.
So there is a massive hypocrisy here. If you're like, we all need to stand up to this. This isn't about Israel-Palestine. We all need to gather together to defend the reaction community. Well,
No one is gathering together to defend anything. Ethan, I don't know how many more times I respond to this. Ethan just named 3 defendants that he thought were egregiously violative of his copyright, which he has the right to do, and he gives a reason why he named those 3 and not anyone else, and that he thinks that creating a chilling effect isn't good in general. But he doesn't have standing to bring cases against XQC for anyone else. Like, where does this retard talking point keep coming from? Some dipshit said this, and all you fucking morons are repeating this. Didn't Ethan repeatedly egg Hassan to watch the entire thing? Didn't Ethan, like, do you guys think that Ethan would have sued Hassan if he reacted to it and spent like 8 or 9 hours or whatever the fuck, or however long going over the whole thing in good faith? Like, some retard online said this, and you guys all copied it. I don't know where this talking point came from, but it's beyond stupid.
the people who, yeah, I agree. This kind of shit is bad for that reaction community because it's not fair use at all. But that also fucking includes XQC. Let's not kid ourselves here. So any kind of delineation here that would be to, quote, protect the reaction community would have to include on the other side of the ledger XQC. But of course, Ethan would never sue XQC. And it's not because XQC...
What? That's such... What? I don't think Ethan likes XQC at all. Again, in their last debate, did they have a debate more recently than the copyright stuff? I tried to coach XQC on the other half of this, and XQC did the worm. What?
would have to include on the other side of the ledger XQC. But of course, Ethan would never sue XQC. And it's not because XQC isn't infringing. It's because XQC is like more friendly with Ethan Klein. And anyone who denies that, I think, is denying reality.
That's just a delusional take. I don't know what if we're trying like really, really hard to both sides it or like be the epic centrist here, but that's just...
So spare me this shit, all right? This is so stupid. That said, these people who are doing the denims of the worlds, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? And also, probably infringement.
As we know it.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow.
Okay, but if he's not friendly with XQC, if he's not friendly with XQC, why doesn't he go after XQC? Because XQC certainly is not upholding...
Did XQC... Why does he keep saying this? Go after. He doesn't have standing to sue him on behalf of other people's copyright? Did XQC watch the entire content nuke or something? Maybe he did he? Does anybody know? I don't even know if he did or not. He did, yeah. It was like 2 hours and 30 minutes. Actually watched it. His whole thing uploaded to his channel. Oh, base. Nice. I think he's just looking at it as every infringement should be pursued and not just the worst ones if you care about fair use. So he doubts Ethan's belief in the law. He did, but it was a fair react comparison to the other reacts.
39 months, big boy. How about a welcome to the jungle?
He's a content goblin. Of course he did. You guys keep saying of course, but I thought, didn't Asmongold... Or am I mixing this up with something else? Didn't Asmongold wait like 2 weeks to watch this? I don't remember if XQC watched it or not. But okay, XQC did watch it.
Experts.
If this infringement has no intent, then what Dunham's and XQC did was exactly the same, right? I'm too lazy to go through this whole thing. But, I mean, from a legal standpoint, what XQC and Dunham's technically would be the same. Now, I'm granting that this React was the same or as transformative as Dunham's. Now, if XQC did something significant or like cut parts out of this or do whatever, then you can make like a greater argument for XQC being transformative here. That being said, there's something to, I still think there's something to be said for acting with malice, maybe not in a strict like elements of the torts thing, but in terms of like people deciding to sue you thing. If you're doing something, especially something that's like a strict liability thing, like there's a difference between somebody saying, you know, like, oh, you fucked up or you shouldn't have done this. And the guy's like, oh, shit, yeah, sorry or whatever. Versus somebody who's like, I'm going to willfully and maliciously do this. Maybe not in the eyes of whether or not they have violated or given you the civil cause of action. But in terms of whether or not a plaintiff wants to pursue a case, I mean, like, that's absolutely true. And you also have absolutely the right to do that as well, you know.